Welcome, everybody, to New Earth announcements. I know a lot of you guys have been asking us where the lives are, where the videos are. We've been in a really long process, but the process of the last 3 to 4 months has really been a preparation phase for many of us, and I'm sure for you guys as well, in that you can kind of feel like you are getting prepared for something. And many of you might be wondering, well, what am I getting ready for? Like, what is my next step? What's my role? All of that. And we are all getting the guidance and the downloads that we need to kind of prepare ourselves for whatever the next step is for us, our role and what the next phase that we're stepping into. So Mom kept guiding me to just do this video as a New Earth announcement. And basically the message that has been coming through since the beginning of July has been that we have reached the tipping point. So I talked about this recently. I feel like the podcast on it, but on the 7/7 portal, I had gotten through that we had actually reached the tipping point. And I know many of you may have heard about the tipping point or the Light Quotient for many years. And the Light Quotient never meant that we had to have a certain number of people, although there always was kind of numbers that were given to Mom over the years between 200 and 300 people. But it's really not the amount of people, it's the amount of light. And that's why we've always said, if one person is embodying their higher self and is bringing in as much of that light energy as possible, they are going to be holding light for anywhere up to like 10 million or more people, probably more at this point, because we're now reaching levels where those of you who have been consistently kind of doing the inner work, anchoring in more light, the light is now outweighing the dark in terms of the consciousness. So we had reached the tipping point, which means that the Light Quotient was ready. And this is why a lot of people in the disclosure community, the spiritual community, are like, well, when is all of this going to shift? When is there going to be a big shift? When is disclosure going to fully come out? And the truth was that the consciousness wasn't ready, and neither were we, because we're holding these ends of the spectrum, where we are holding the end of the light spectrum, and we had to be prepared to stay neutral enough, balanced enough, and centered enough for those disclosures to occur. Because if we were discombobulated and we weren't prepared and we weren't able to hold the amount of space for that to happen, it wouldn't have been, the highest for all. So we've been in the preparation phase of basically holding as much light as possible, being able to hold space, be really centered and balanced, and kind of enter that world of neutrality so that we could allow the unfolding to occur. So now the events are going to happen at a much faster rate. And we're seeing this with mainstream media and some disclosures that are coming out. It's all speeding up very, very rapidly. It's now the dominoes are able to kind of fall. So today is the full moon in Capricorn. So the message that I've been getting for this day was that it was going to be very big. And for those of you who are in the US, and you know that we've had the Pluto return for the United States that began in February. So basically Pluto was returning to the same place in which he was when the US was founded in 1776. So anytime there's a Pluto return, and specifically we look at countries and empires because those are the ones who actually, have the Pluto returns. We as humans aren't able to experience Pluto returns in our individual charts because it takes about 250 years for Pluto to make his way all the way through the zodiac. So when we look at empires and we look at other countries who have had their Pluto returns, there's always some sort of collapse that occurs. And that is what's happening here, because the United States is the ascension point. And so the old is collapsing so that the new can actually be birthed and come through. So today is kind of officially the last day of the old because we have the full moon in Capricorn. And this, full moons are about closure of something. There is a release of some kind. There is a manifestation of something. There is a closure of one piece. And then we move into something different, something new. And so when we're looking at Capricorn and the lower 3D distortions of that energy, that is what built the patriarchy. That is what built the powering over, the control, the authority over others, kind of taking away others' sovereignties, greed, and just kind of this lust to have total control over others. So we're seeing how this is actually purging today, and it's going to be conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. So we had the Pluto return in February, and then Pluto just kept moving forward. And so a lot of people thought, okay, that was it, right? Well, no, because Pluto goes through retrogrades every year. So he's going to keep retrograding backwards and hitting the same exact point of our Pluto return. And then he's going to move forward, and then he's going to move back and hit it again. So for pretty much the next 1.5 to 2 years, we're going to have consistent Pluto return energy in the United States. And Pluto is in retrograde now. And so he's moved back to the exact degree that he hit earlier in February. And this full moon is conjunct. So when we have a planet conjunction, it means the planets are close enough together where they actually meld. Their energies interact in some way, which strengthens both of those planets' energies. So we've got Pluto and the moon conjunct in Capricorn. So the moon is going to be amplifying that Pluto return energy, and Pluto's also going to be amplifying that moon emotional release type of energy. So today is very important because towards the end of the month, we are leading up to a really point of destiny for the collective as a whole. So for those of you who kind of follow astrology, we have the North Node in Taurus right now for the collective. And so that North Node is bringing us the destiny of a lot of these Taurian themes. For those of you who don't know, Mom birthed the new Earth during Taurus season on Mother's Day in 2018. So Taurus actually does carry the new Earth energies. The Empress energies of like the tarot deck. It's very much about abundance, sustainability, equal energy exchange, living with nature and with the earth rather than trying to dominate nature. Taurus brings us a lot of, how do we have our own sovereignty? How do we sustain ourselves? How do we care for ourselves without relying on authorities or governments, because that's giving our power away. So how do we bring that power back to ourselves? Taurus rules over agriculture, food, which we see a lot of these kind of food shortage fears and things like that. It also rules the financial system. So a lot of the Taurian energy is teaching us to be responsible with our resources and to actually utilize them for the highest good rather than for self purposes or agendas or corruption. And that's what the South Node in Scorpio is doing. And the South Node is our karmic past, is bringing up all the corruption and what many of us have known for a long time about the lies and manipulations that have been utilized to basically strip the power away from humanity. So those North and South Node points in Taurus and Scorpio are South Node is bringing out all the disclosure, all the corruption, all that has been false. And the North Node is guiding us to now come together more in community style, take our power back, be more sovereign, and also to live with nature, to get back in tune with Mother Earth herself, rather than living so separate and disconnected from it. So at the end of this month, on July 31st, we have Uranus, which is the planet of surprise and sudden events that shake things up, is going to be right on top of the North Node in Taurus. So this is a collective destiny point where there's going to be some sort of shock factor that's going to basically quantum leap us towards our destiny collectively. So I don't know, what that will bring. There's definitely a lot of areas that we can keep an eye out on, which is going to be resources, finances, housing markets, land, agriculture, all of those kind of things. So we have a lot of energy leading up to that. So the message that I kept getting from Mom for this full moon was that this is the end of the old world. The old world is basically crumbling today. That's the energy that it's bringing. It is wiping it clean, because in a few weeks' time, we're going to have a collective fated shift of events. Fate is going to step in because humanity is destined and is fated to go through this ascension process with the earth. And so we have this window of time. And so for those of you who are in the first wave, you have been doing the inner work, you're on the ascension path. The message that Mom really wanted me to get out was that we are moving into the next phase, which a lot of this phase is going to be leadership, is going to be, guiding others, assisting the ones who are about to go through their first awakening, and to be prepared for that in whatever our individual role and soul, is guiding us to do. But we are basically preparing for that. That is the next phase for us. And she really also was, bringing to me that we have to see New Earth in order for it to come into fruition. So what I've described a lot of is when I feel into the deep sleepers, the ones who have still not awakened. They have this mentality of, I'll believe it when I see it. And the funniest part about that is that is the opposite of the way manifestation works. Manifestation works in the way that you have to believe in something with so much faith and conviction and trust that then you are able to see it, because you actually bring it into manifestation. So the ass backwardsness of I'll believe it when I see it has what has really been holding up the new earth from really being able to be seen, because a lot of us, of course, we're tapped in with the energies. We can see and feel that the new earth energies are here. We know that there's an ascension process going on. We know that there's a massive quantum leap in evolution going on. But for the average person who hasn't awakened and tuned into the energies, they're still not feeling and sensing what's happening. They've been blocking that manifestation with that mentality of I'll believe it when I see it. Now that we've reached the tipping point and the light quotient has been reached, for those of you in the first wave, it is very imperative that we're in this preparation phase still, and we are preparing for the next unfoldment. But we also have to hold the vision of New Earth. We have to start seeing New Earth everywhere, because it already exists. It's already here. The only reason we don't see it with our, we're not necessarily seeing the entire picture, of what we dream of New Earth to be. The only lag from that coming into manifestation is now us seeing it. And Mom used to talk about this all the time, especially earlier in her journey, and she wrote many articles and has many videos about it, that heaven on earth was already here. It is just that our perception has been distorted by the mind and by the programming. And so what you focus on and what you believe to be true that is what brings it into manifestation, right? So as first wavers, our job right now is to hold that vision of New Earth and to hold space. As that starts to come in, that is how the deep sleepers are going to wake up. They're going to, and I've seen a lot of this in the past few weeks. A lot of people are starting to sense things that they weren't sensing before. A lot of people have been seeing the Mandela effects. They've been, having the kind of time glitches or maybe visions or dreams. So it is happening for them. Remember, they have to go through the experience just like we did. There's no need to force anything. There's no need to try and wake people up, because it's already happening, and it's going to be happening for their highest good, meaning we all had to go through the experience of awakening to know that it was real. People can tell you things, but until you experience them yourself, you're really not going to get it. And so that's what's happening, is we've reached the point where we are starting to bring in heaven on earth, which is the miracles, the synchronistic events, the magic, the beauty that we just have kind of tuned out of. And as that starts to come into people's reality, well, then what happens is all that has been suppressed, all that has been hidden, comes to the surface to finally be seen. That has been the melding of the world. So the tipping point was really where the light started to outweigh the dark, and the light is getting shown on the dark so that it can be seen and it can be released. Because remember, darkness is not something we have to battle. It's simply something that you shine a light on, you shine love into that space, and it disappears. Because the darkness was never real. That's why Mom would say it is an illusion. It is simply a distortion of the mind that creates the perception of what we're seeing. So we don't need to be battling the dark. And that was the trap of the ego, is like, you can't battle it. You have to just continue to hold the light. You have to continue to neutralize that energy. And the light and the 5D energies starts to seep in, through the cracks, and is slowly making its way into the masses' reality. And as that happens, the old world crumbles, because it could only sustain off of our perception of it. And that has really been the key, with a lot of the inner work. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have felt it. It's like we are now at a point where we have done a lot of the deep dives. We've done a lot of the shadow work. We've done, going through the ego programming, like all of these kind of things. And now our job is literally to not only see New Earth, envision it, hold the vision, but to bring it into ourselves and actually embody it. We are the ones, you birth reality through your inner being. So if you're embodying New Earth, you are just basically waking up every day. You're taking the higher perspective. You're embodying the energy that you wish to see in the outer world. And you just keep holding that vision. You see everybody in their highest, even if they're not awakened. See them in their highest light and feed that part of them. Anything that occurs, see it in the highest perspective possible and say, what is the highest, absolute best outcome of that event or that experience? And you hold that vision. That's how we start bringing this into reality. And we are doing it. Today is definitely a huge, I think, purge of the old energies, because our focus has now shifted. Our focus is now purely on New Earth. So remember that the light quotient, the ones who are holding the light on the planet, because we're conscious and we are consciously directing our energy, it's much more powerful than people who are unconsciously directing their energy. So for the past couple of years, we've had to focus, so to speak, on the dark to bring it to awareness, right? That was the process. We had to focus on bringing the darkness to the awareness and putting that out there so that more and more people could start to become aware of it. Now we've completed that task. So as soon as we now shift our focus towards only focusing on New Earth, the magnitude of that is going to bring this into manifestation much more quickly than it would have before, because the quotient's been reached. So the power now lies in those who are consciously directing their energy, who are consciously connecting with Source. And now when we all shift our focus towards New Earth, the old quickly crumbles away, because we are the strongest forces. So our power and our focus needs to be directed now towards the higher. Let the old chapter go, because the old chapter is ending. And that was the message that really came through for today. And I just wanted to read, I wrote down a few notes that I wanted to share. So the biggest shift that we're going to see as New Earth now begins to actually overlay the old, and the old is on its way out. Today's the last day. It's going to get purged out. What does that mean? So this means that all of the old ways will no longer work. So the programming can no longer function in the New Earth energies, because New Earth is here now. It's been activated, and now our focus is shifting to it. So it's coming in more and more rapidly. So the ego mind is not going to work anymore. Old technologies are not going to work anymore. Basically any old way of doing something. So anything that was based in the mind, now this could hit many industries, right? Anything that was based in the mind, anything that was based in the unconscious shadow, will now no longer be able to function. And so this is going to be interesting, right? Because there's a lot of sectors of our life and of the world that this is going to hit. The other big shift in paradigm is that we're exiting the masculine paradigm and entering the feminine paradigm. But I wanted to make clear with that it is not that feminine energy is now going to be more important or the only energy that we need, and that we're just kind of, getting rid of the masculine. That's not at all what's happening. But what is happening is that it's going to be a feminine-led paradigm, which doesn't just mean feminine vessels. There are many masculine, divine masculine, who are going to be called to lead and guide and teach as well. What we're really saying is the last 27,000 years, we've been leading with the internal masculine. And this manifested as the masculine vessels being the ones in control, in power, dominating others. It was a reflection of how we were flipped. And that is what 3D is. Everything in 3D, if you flip it on its head, that's 5D. And that's what's happening as the old world leaves us, is again, a lot of people are going to have to adjust to the new way, because the old ways won't work anymore. The old thought system won't work. And so this is going to discombobulate the consciousness, of course, because they're having to basically completely switch and flip to an entirely new way of being. But it's going to be quicker than we imagine. So we're moving from this masculine-led paradigm to now everyone is going to be leading with their feminine energy, meaning you're leading from the heart. You're leading with the softness. You're leading with compassion and kindness, receptivity, intuition, creativity, community, all of these feminine aspects. And again, feminine also are not, the feminine energy does not always mean that it's soft and kind of docile. The feminine's actually very, very powerful. It just was never allowed its full expression. So that's what we're coming to now, is that the feminine energy is going to get its power back. The shadow feminine was one that we felt we had to be docile and people pleasing and just kind of, we weren't really, in our empowerment. We weren't in confidence. It was always we were very much suppressed. And so we had to break out of that. And the feminine energy is very powerful. It's not docile by nature. It's extremely expressive. And so that's going to be the other aspect of what everyone has to adjust to, is the new feminine, what the feminine, divine feminine energy really is. And the masculine is the support system for that. The masculine can consciously direct that energy, can execute the energy of the feminine, and can create boundaries and structures, and can also create disciplines, and brings what the feminine creates into manifestation. So the energies work perfectly together. It's just now we're all going to be leading with the feminine. So we're leading with our creative aspect. We're leading with our expressive aspect. We're no longer trying to basically use the masculine energy completely cut off from the feminine, which is what creates rigidity. It's what creates hierarchy. It's what creates kind of empty systems that are not, they don't have a solid foundation because they weren't founded with a balanced force. There was no love, there was no compassion, there was no truth to what the old paradigm built, because it was completely cut off from the feminine. So of course, this is going to be the other big aspect of this kind of flip paradigm, is everyone is going to have to realize that they have been cut off from source, and they have felt separated from God because they cut out the feminine. And that mother wound is within every human being, because they cut the mother out of everything. And so we all basically were carrying around these really deep mother wounds, this fear of abandonment, this fear of separation, this fear of rejection. That is all based in the mother wound, the universal mother wound. And we're all going to heal that. Humanity's going to have to heal that as they come to the realization that they've been having that fear of abandonment, that fear of death, fear of disconnection. All of that stems from the mother wound, because that is where we get the connection. That is where we feel the oneness, where we feel the unity, where we understand the cycles of life, where we are in tune with Mother Earth, who we live on. We are in tune with others. We respect others. We have a community of interaction and connection and kindness and giving and receiving. And that is what we're moving into. So this is going to be a large shift, because each person is going to have to come into balance within themselves. The new earth is based on balanced harmonics. And so we have to come into perfect balance with our masculine and our feminine, and do a lot of that healing work. And that's what humanity is now about to enter. We're also shifting. I kept hearing that everything that was previously invisible will now become visible. Everything that was unseen will now become seen, and everything that was hidden will now be brought to the surface. So New Earth has always been in existence, right? We just couldn't see it because as humans in the mind, and because our DNA was shut off, we could only perceive about 1 to 5% of all energy in existence. So it's kind of like where we've been walking around and we've been just so focused on the lower and on the destruction and on the chaos. And so we couldn't see that New Earth has been here the whole time. We just have to focus on it. We just have to start actually bringing it into our being and be the only thing that we are focusing on. And so that is how the hidden becomes seen. Because again, as New Earth comes in to manifestation, all that was false and illusionary also becomes seen. All that has been suppressed must be released. So this is also going to be, I think, big releases for the earth, big releases for us as individuals, releasing all suppressed energy so that we can finally be clear vessels and be working together and embodying consciously. And we're also shifting a lot from the known to the unknown. The known was all the mind. So this is all going to feel very uncomfortable. But the beauty of it is that it is uncomfortable, but this is the sign that we are officially entering the new paradigm, because it is very uncomfortable. We will get used to this. External to internal. So instead of being so focused on what's externally happening, we now are shifting into what is happening within ourselves, because we, each human, each being, is a universe within themselves. We are made of the same energy as universes and planets and multiverses. It is the same, as above, so below. So the more that we focus on the inner self, the more that the external changes. We've been doing it ass backwards for 27,000 years, trying to fix the external and ignoring the internal and wondering why nothing works and nothing changes. We're also going from proof to knowing. So we're shifting from the mind's need to have proof of something, calculations and proof and all these things, very funny. And we're moving into knowing. Knowing, you just know. You have a feeling. It is your intuition. It is your knowing. There is no need to prove what you know to be true. We're moving from seen to felt. So instead of only focusing on what we can see, we're going to be much more in tune with what we feel. And we're moving from force to flow. So the masculine paradigm was very forceful, where we were always trying to make things happen. We had this whole mentality of work harder, hustle more, force things, manipulate, any way in which you can achieve your goal, that's how you do it. And we're moving completely into the opposite, where the feminine paradigm is about flow. It's about attracting things to you that are divinely guided to you, but also a vibrational match to you, that basically everything that comes to you is divinely guided. There's no need to go out and seek it. And so we're moving into that flow, the ebbs and flows of nature. We all have a natural ebb and flow, but we've been trying to force it. And the power over paradigm is ending, and we're moving into the power with. So masculine and feminine are going to finally come into a power with dynamic, where we are balanced internally. We achieved balanced harmonics, which means there's no more battle of the sexes. The battle of the sexes was an external manifestation of what was happening internally. Our masculine and feminine energies have been imbalanced for so long and have been competing with one another. That is what manifested externally. So now that we are coming into wholeness of being, that masculine feminine battle in the external can now heal too, because that is kind of the biggest heartbreak of creation, is how the masculine and feminine were really pitted against each other. And it has caused so much imbalance and dysfunction and just I think heartbreak and pain for everybody, because it was never meant to be like that. It was always meant to be that they work, yin and yang, they work perfectly together, they support each other, and they both have their unique roles. But because we were so imbalanced, we literally manifested this imbalance externally. And so for a lot of people, that also is going to have to come into some sort of resolution and harmony, because of course the masculine paradigm still exists in the consciousness. And so it is really a time where I feel a lot of divine feminine are going to get their power back, and the masculine as well, to really become partners. And this is with anyone you interact with, and especially within yourself, of really having that balance. So this is a very, I think, exciting time, but it is wobbly. It is uncomfortable. We're not totally sure how this is going to play out, but we just have to be able to hold that trust and that faith in that this is happening. This is the big shift that we have prepared for a very long time. It is the shift that we've all worked hard to get to, and it is now here. It's happened. We reached the light quotient. The tipping point occurred. New Earth is here. Our job again is just to realize that it is, to wake up from the dream within the dream and realize that it was here the whole time. It has been within us. And now if we just place our focus on it, it's going to come in very, very, very quickly. And we will also be stepping up into different roles in terms of, assisting humanity as they now begin their awakening process. And so many of you will be called to different positions. whatever your passions are, whatever your soul guides you to, that is your role. And all of the first wavers will be called to their posts, so to speak, to their positions, so that we are ready and the transition is underway. And we are going to get another really big portal on 8/8. So we're preparing for that. And I had pulled some cards for this full moon as well, and they were very interesting. So the first ones, and I love this deck, but the first ones that came out was, we have the Descendant card, and then we have the Ascendant card. So what that meant to me was the split is occurring. The old world is falling away. That's the Descendant, and we are ascending. So we are literally splitting off and breaking off from the old world. It is dissolving back into the oneness. It will be recycled. We're not leaving planets. We're not going somewhere else. It's simply energetic. That old world is shedding. So we are both descending and ascending as the split happens. Now we also have the Solar Flares card. So very interesting card. I think it's a big it says activate. And so I think that this is a big confirm in that it could be a massive solar flare. It could be a CME storm or something like that. But more so, we are the solar flares, right? So as we reach this really high state of, we're heaven on earth, we're returning to heaven on earth, we're returning to the Garden of Eden that we were, fell from. We're returning, we're coming full circle in this story of creation. So we are the solar flares. And that's what I want everyone to kind of understand, is that there's no external event that is going to happen. We are the event. And all we have to do is, that was the message, was like, all we have to do now as first wavers is literally just to announce to ourselves, to the universe, to whoever, New Earth is here. We've announced it. Happy New Earth. And now we open ourselves up and say, yep, New Earth is here. I'm ready for that next level. And the amount of light that's going to be pouring in, because we are the bridges. We bring that energy in and we shine it out. We are the solar flare. But I do feel that there could be an actual solar flare. I know we talked about the solar flash. I don't know. That could happen. I don't know shit. But it is a really good confirmation that something is activating, that we are activating that higher grid. We are causing solar flares within the consciousness. 2 house cards came out. So we've got the 6th house, which is interesting. So the 6th house is ruled by Virgo, and this talks a lot about our day-to-day lives, and basically whether everything is equal, if we are putting out as much energy as we are receiving, if we are directing energy to the highest place it could be directed, or are we draining ourselves? So this is an interesting concept, because equal energy exchange is balanced harmonics, and we are moving into the paradigm. And you can see this card says sustainability. We are moving into the paradigm. Of course, the feminine paradigm is equal parts giving and receiving. So the feminine aspect gives out energy and also receives energy, has no blocks to receiving, doesn't have resistance, doesn't have walls. And this is how we keep the flow of life. When we were over masculinized, we didn't receive well. We had many blocks and resistances and walls, and then we were constantly directing energy out, and oftentimes towards the wrong places or people or things. And so that's where we get hoarding from. That's where we get poverty from. That's where we get lack consciousness from. Masculine polarity without the feminine polarity. That's what you get when you cut the feminine out. So And this card's 44. So we are moving into a time of equal energy exchange, which means there, again, the old ways won't work anymore. We have to give as equally as we receive. So takers, what we would always say with takers, are people who take more energy than they give. So that's going to be cut out. Taking is no longer going to work. Putting your energy and focus towards the wrong direction is no longer going to work. It'll kind of be more instantaneous, where like something shows you like, okay, I'm focused in the wrong place, or I'm giving my energy to the wrong person, to the wrong situation, to the wrong experience. Bringing your energy back to yourself, and we are going to be moving into this state where it's going to be very important that we're all learning where to direct our focus and when it's highest, where it's highest, and to pull our energy back from where it is draining, from where it is taking. And this is our day-to-day lives, the 6th house. So we are definitely entering that new paradigm where from day to day, we're going to have to start adjusting. Everybody's going to have to adjust. This isn't just a one-time thing. This is a whole new way of living. And then we have the 11th house, which is the house of Aquarius, community, the collective consciousness, and humanity as a whole. Also rules the internet. It rules gatherings. It rules communities, like-hearted individuals coming together into groups, into networks. This is also going to be happening. The givers will gather. That's what we've always said. And more people are going to start finding their tribe, their soul tribes, their soul families, the people that really resonate with them, the areas that really resonate with them. If you've been, you're being called to move to a different location, or maybe to expand your network and people you connect with, and maybe you've, felt guided to kind of meet new people, it's because the souls are now going to be coming together in soul groups, because it's all about unity consciousness. Nobody's going to be a one-man show anymore. There's no one who's going to be in charge. Source is in charge, but we are all meant to be working together, and so that is going to come about too. We then have the Virgo card. So Virgo, ruler of the 6th house, so kind of Virgo energy twice. And Virgo is going to be teaching us a lot about, because Virgo understands how to give and receive equally, because Virgo rules the 6th house. So they have that balance. They have that balance between service to others, self-care. They're alchemizers, so they know how to alchemize everything into some state of balance. This card also says digest. So there's a lot for humanity to digest, and it's going to take them some moments to digest this and to alchemize their shock, to alchemize their maybe grief, anger, shame, guilt, whatever it is, to alchemize that into a higher state. And that is what you will all be called to do, is you're basically to assist humanity through the waking up process by helping them alchemize those lower states of, like we said, shock, denial, anger, resentment, guilt. It doesn't matter what the emotion is, to alchemize that into a higher state, to assist them in making that transition into the higher states of embodiment, so that they don't have to spend as much time in the lower states. And that's why we've all done so much work over so many years, is that they're going to have an easier time, in the sense that there's a lot of people to help guide them, and they're all going to be kind of going through it together. But it's going to be a lot of shock to their systems. So we're here to help them digest and alchemize that. And then we also have Neptune. And Neptune is the vision. So Neptune, who is in Pisces, its home sign, is retrograde, is assisting us with holding the vision. Neptune is our connection to our imagination, to the etheric energy, to the unlimited possibilities, right? So what was once impossible is now possible, because the energies have shifted. The new paradigm is where all possibilities exist. So dream as big as you would like, and envision as big as you would like, because what was once, again, hidden, blocked, repressed, is now seen, visible, made manifest. So it's a very powerful energy that we have to envision the new earth and really bring that in. Last cards here, we have the Gaia Gateway activation. So this is wisdom, transmissions, earth intelligence, learning experiences. And as you can see, it is a portal of the earth. New earth is coming in. Gaia Gateway activation. It's happening. It's coming in. These are going to be wisdom transmissions. We're going to start getting more downloads about things that we never even knew about. You know, the collective consciousness is going to start having the higher wisdoms and knowledge and truths downloaded into our consciousness. We have the Holy Grail. Inner discovery. You are what you seek. The Holy Grail is the wake-up call that we are what we seek. We are the change we wish to see. We are the embodiment of New Earth. Humanity is also going to wake up and realize that they are the co-creators with Source. What they've been seeking outside themselves lies within. They're going to start understanding that secret, that they have to go within, that it's been inside of them this whole time. Everything they've been seeing in the external is simply a projection of their internal. And that's a lot to find out. But the good news is that's where you find yourself. That's where you find your true self. And they're going to be going through that process. We have Orion Activation, another portal card. Supernova, renewal, rebirthed by light. And I find this interesting because this card also kind of looks like the colors, and like this portion right here looks very similar to the photos that the space telescope just put out. So I'm feeling something with that. And the final one is the Soul Star Activation. And it is fulfilling soul contracts, remembering who you are. So we are fulfilling soul contracts. Humanity for the first time is going to wake up and remember who they are. And we are all going to move forward in this transition. It may be experienced as some chaos. You know, of course, there's going to be some chaos, and our job is to just hold the space. But remember that every great change is preceded by chaos. That is part of the process. Chaos can be beautiful, as long as you view it that way. So there will be a lot that kind of rolls out in the next few weeks. So this is the full moon today. Ceremonies are great if you guys get guided to do ceremonies or meditations, visualizations, anything like that, of just letting the old world go and kind of focusing on the new coming in, preparing for your next stages. And we will have that kind of destined fated point at the end of the month on July 31st with Uranus in the North Node joining together. Surprises are definitely in store, and that will lead us up to the 8/8 portal. So we love you guys. Thank you to everybody who has just been doing their inner work, like holding the light. Thank you to everybody who has, stayed dedicated and stayed passionate about this process, because we were in it for the long haul, and we've arrived at a really grand, exciting point in this process in history. We are blessed to be here to witness the greatest event in creation. Even though sometimes, some days it may not feel like that, but please bring that into your daily experience, that celebrate and really feel the energy that's coming in. And, we're just grateful to be here. If anybody needs assistance, please feel free to reach out to us, email us. If you feel guided to book a session, you can do that on the website, but reach out to us. We will be giving some updates as we go along. We'll see. But hold the light, hold the vision. We love you all, and stay real, planet Earth.